Hello everyone and welcome to the Olympic Grand Prix circuit. So this is the starting section with the 30 player large grid, and as you saw there was a pit lane as well. Now the pit lane is used for endurance racing and we will come on to that later on, but obviously with the starting grid as well, the starting gate as well there, it's quite an intriguing start finish line. So those of you who know Cutting Coroners GP will be aware of the first half of this track. The first corner there is exactly the same, but it is a little bit more wide open. As you can see, you can go across that curve on the inside, which basically gives you a little bit more space to play with, especially at the start of a race. And that's the kind of philosophy that I've gone to with this track. It's been made in the same way as my recreation of Los Santos Grand Prix for next gen, where I'm not throttling the track as much as what I used to with the old Cutting Coroners GP. For example, there used to be barriers there blocking those lampposts, but instead I'm using tyre stacks as an alternative, because if there are any issues, there are a lot of cars in that area, there should be an area where you can go to get out of that situation and go on the sidewalk. It won't be the quickest way around the track, but it will at least give you an option if the inevitable happens and you come up against a lot of cars and you get pushed wide. But it also keeps those poles from being knocked over. So down here we come around this section, and it's basically exactly the same as even the original Cutting Coroners at this point, but also the same as Cutting Coroners GP, just with a few different prop placements, as I mentioned, to keep the track a little bit more open and to make sure annoying lampposts aren't knocked over and ruin your race, as you can see there. So we come down here and then we go left through the hospital, just like the original Cutting Coroners, and left out of the hospital rather than right, following the old Cutting Coroners GP track as normal. Now this bit is basically exactly the same. You come down here, you take the right hand kink, but the outside section of that this right hand kink is a little bit more open as well. There used to be a barrier on the left hand side there. That's no longer there, so there's more space to play with. And this section here, there's a little bit more space as well. So on the left there, there's a tyre stack to keep that lamppost from being knocked over, which used to cause a problem. And that section there is a little bit more open in favour of the barriers being moved a little bit further along and being a bit more extensive on this stretch of road, because we used to find that in races people would go on the sidewalk at this point and use all of that sidewalk area, knock lampposts over, things like that. So that is not possible to use anymore. So this is where it differs from the original Cutting Coroners GP, insofar as instead of going all the way down and round to the finish line again, you take a right here, and this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. So you take a right whilst people are coming out of the hospital there, and also you're obviously passing people going into the hospital section, and then you take a right through this section here. Now that is your first corner. So as you can see, the start finish straight is just down there. You are passing people going round the first corner as you come round this section of the track. And that is a feature of all of my tracks, where you can see different people in different areas of the track, even if you aren't necessarily racing against them. Now the best line around this corner is on the inside, using either the curb or the inside section there, but there is a barrier there to stop that lamppost from being knocked over. However, you can use the outside if you need it, so again there's a bit more space there to play with. Then you come down this section and you take a right here with that barrier there to stop lampposts being knocked over and the tyre stack, and again you are passing people going through that section of the track. So the early section of the track is also passing people going through the late section of the track, and it all mixes together quite nicely to create a good experience. So you come down this section, there's a tyre stack there on the around that lamppost, but you can use the outside of this corner. Go around this left-hander, right around this right-hander, and then you go over this bridge. Now this bridge actually goes over the track that we've just been on. So as you can see there, from checkpoint 8 to checkpoint 9, you actually go over the bridge and pass people over the top of them, if you like. So you go all the way over this bridge, down the other side, around this long right-hander, which can get quite bumpy, so you do have to be careful, and there is a barrier on the inside to make sure you don't knock over any lampposts. Right again onto the Olympic Freeway, and this is where it gets its name. This is where the track gets its name, because the Olympic Freeway basically crosses the circuit in 3 different places. So again, we're crossing the same bit that we've just crossed on the other bridge, all the way down here. We're crossing the circuit in another place further up here where we've just been underneath to get onto this section, as you can see there. And you've got people obviously in different sections of the track as well. And you keep going all the way along and cross the track even on this part as well. So there's 3 different places there where people could be going underneath you as you go over the top of them. And that's why this has been given its name, the Olympic Grand Prix, because the Olympic freeway has been the biggest change from what it used to be. So you come around this section, and this section has basically been taken from a Broughy verified race, and I'd like to thank Bendy Arms for allowing me to use this section of the track, because it's honestly been one of my favourite sections of any track that anybody has ever created in a Broughy verified race. So this section is basically directly from that. Those of you who remember those races will know it. It was on the Xbox 360, and you can see different cars coming along. So as you go down the right hand side here, you'll be able to see cars coming along the left, and again as you go along this section here, you'll be able to see cars coming down the outside there. So again, a lot of places where you can see different vehicles at different parts of the track. You come down the off ramp here, round to the left, and then there are a few barriers again to stop you from knocking over lampposts, because this section can get quite bad with that. So I've made sure to minimize that. You're best off staying on the road. Obviously the tires are there to stop you from cutting any corners too much there, and basically you just run out to the finish line. Now the finish line does close up a little bit, so you do have to be aware that if you're on the left hand side, you do have to get over to the right hand side of the road, and you can't go on the pavement or the sidewalk all the way along that section. You do have to stick on the road for the finish line. There are tyre stacks there in front of the big lampposts, just to make sure that they aren't knocked over as people cut across the grass if they have any issues. And obviously you've got the pit lane there as well. So the pit lane is used for endurance racing. If you have any damage on your car, you have to use the pit lane rather than respawning, because respawning causes trouble with having other cars appear. So you come around there, you come through there, and basically exiting at this section allows you to still hit that checkpoint on the right hand side. So where's this track come from? Well, basically we had the original Cutting Coroners. That's the one that I did all my original testing on. That's the one that we're all used to, created by Rockstar. Then I created Cutting Coroners GP, which I used for all of my fully upgraded testing, which you've all seen. Then I made Cutting Coroners GP version 2, which was a little bit better for racing and went through the hospital just like the original Cutting Coroners did. And now we have the Olympic Grand Prix circuit, which is basically exactly the same as that original Cutting Coroners GP circuit for the first half of it, and then very much changed for the second half of it. So why did I decide to change the name? You know, it could have easily been called Cutting Coroners GP or Cutting Coroners XL or something like that. Well, for me, it didn't. You know, it was originally called Cutting Coroners GP, and I was going to just call it that. And by the end of this race, when you see the results, it will say Cutting Coroners GP, because this was before I changed the name. But honestly, it was pointed out to me, and I agreed with people that it didn't feel like Cutting Coroners anymore. Apart from sort of the hospital section, it just didn't really have that feel of the original Cutting Coroners, and it was probably better to have a brand new name for it. So that's what I've gone for, and the reason I chose Olympic Grand Prix is because the main difference with this track compared to the original Cutting Coroners is that Olympic freeway section. You go on the Olympic freeway, it allows you to go over the top of all the other parts of the track, and it basically creates a completely different experience. So that's why I've called it Olympic Grand Prix, and you'll be seeing a race from this right now. So I want to just give you guys the description for the race. So basically it is Olympic Grand Prix. Blast over the Olympic freeway as your rivals trail behind and below you on this action-packed Grand Prix style circuit. Born out of the original Cutting Coroners test track, many features of that iconic course can be recognised in the first half of this circuit especially. There will be plenty of opportunity to catch glimpses of your competitors in other sections of the racetrack as it winds around South Los Santos and you drive over, underneath and alongside them on your way to the finish line. So a lot of my tracks have that aspect to them where you can either see different people in different parts of the track, or you're sharing the same track as them. For example, the original Los Santos Grand Prix was very much like that. It had a crossover, but even the new gen version has areas where you are passing different people in different parts of the track. The North Loop is the same sort of thing, where both halves of the circuit share the same bit of straight, and this is no different. You know, this is, I really like this part of this track, how there are so many different areas of this track where you can catch glimpses of other competitors in different areas of the circuit. So you might be half a lap behind, but you see on the mini-map that people are going straight over you on top of the freeway, or you might see someone flash by you in a different part of the track as you're going into a completely different corner ahead of them. And that's what I like about that, you know, it winds itself around and you can see other people in different parts of the track, but you aren't getting in each other's way. So that's especially fun for endurance racing as well. You know, if you're doing an endurance race, it can get quite lonely. If the track is quite big and you know you're on your own for a certain section, there's not a lot that you can really do. But on a track like this, where you can see different people in different parts, you never really get that loneliness feeling. I know it's very strange to talk about that in a racetrack, but that's just something that I like to include. That's just a feature that I like to have in my tracks, is that you can see people in different parts. So you'll be able to see it in this race. I'll point out a few sections in a little while, but just keep your eye open, especially on the last lap, for being able to see different people further behind. They're in completely different parts of the track, and I might be going over the Olympic freeway whilst they're going underneath it, but it's all part of the experience, and it just adds to the whole experience of racing on the circuit. So this is, you know, my third main race creation, if you like. Los Santos Grand Prix is probably my standout creation. You know, it was the very first main Grand Prix track that I created, and then we have the North Loop as well, which is my sort of second main racing circuit for serious racing. This is now my third. Cutting Coroners GP used to hold that claim, but as we found out when we did an endurance race on it, it just wasn't that great for proper racing. It was too throttled, it was too narrow really in certain sections. It caused too many issues, and it was quite small as well. You know, it didn't really have the size for endurance racing, and certainly wasn't able to hold 30 players, which is why I decided to sort of make it into this Olympic Grand Prix that you see now. So the original Cutting Coroners test track that I previously used for all my testing, for the fully upgraded testing, that used to be called Cutting Coroners GP, and then I turned it into Cutting Coroners TT, standing for test track, when I created sort of the new version of the GP circuit going through the hospital. I'm going to revert that back to Cutting Coroners GP, and what used to be Cutting Coroners GP that we used in the first series of the Multi-Class Endurance Championship is going to be no more, because basically this track is it for the first half of it, just with a little bit different for the second half. So yeah, it is a little bit complex with changing of names and that kind of stuff, but all you need to know is that this is based on Cutting Coroners, and certainly the Cutting Coroners GP track of old, but it's got nothing to do with it anymore really. It's a brand new circuit called Olympic Grand Prix. So as you can see just in front there is someone who flashes by going past the first corner as I come here, and as you can see further up, that's the same again here. So that's what I'm talking about with seeing different people in different parts of the track. Now as you round this left-hander, you can see people on the left-hand side of the freeway going into this section, and the same on the right again, people coming down there as well chasing after me. So that's what I'm talking about with being able to see different people in different parts of the track. That's what I like about it. That's what I really try to involve in my tracks, and it's just a little bit of a styling trademark issue that I have, I guess. You know, that all of my tracks generally have that sort of that feature in them. So the final lap, I'll show the final lap here, because it's basically an uninterrupted lap of the circuit, so you can get a good feel for what it's like. And again, keep your eye out for different people in different parts of the track, certainly on the mini-map and on the road as well. So basically at the moment I have three main race tracks. That's Los Santos Grand Prix, the North Loop, and now Olympic Grand Prix. And they're all going to basically have additions to them and shorter tracks that you can use if you want. but those are the three sort of main racetracks that I have. Now there is one more to come. There is going to be another main racetrack, and then that will be me pretty much done when it comes to creating sort of main big full-on full circuit racetracks. I will be still creating variations of them, shorter variations, but yeah, the next one, it could very well be a North Loop killer in terms of how good it might be. I really like the one that's to come, and I would say that Los Santos Grand Prix and the North Loop are kind of my older versions of tracks and that have been updated to new gen. This track, Olympic Grand Prix, and the next track to come are sort of my new gen versions from scratch. So they are very similar in terms of this being similar to Los Santos GP and the next track being similar to the North Loop, certainly in a few areas anyway, but you'll have to wait for that one. Maybe I'll put up a video this time next week and you'll be able to see that one as well. I'm not going to give anything away about the new track, and you'll see it firsthand in the video. So yeah, I hope you decide to give this track a go. I'll leave all the links in the description down below. Let me know what you think about it as well, based on the footage that you've seen here, and obviously the giving it a go yourself. Again, all the links will be in the description, and that will be a link to a page where all my tracks will be as well, for all the different consoles that they're available on. If this track, as you watch this, isn't necessarily available on your console, it may be in the future, so don't necessarily think that, you can keep coming back to that page and you may find that it is available in the future. For the moment, this is going to be initially on PS4, and then we'll see about other platforms when we get a chance to get them on. So thanks a lot for watching, everyone. I really do appreciate your support. Let me know down below what you thought about this track. Does it look interesting to you? And yeah, thanks a lot for watching. I'll see you next time.